Siapa? Ini.
Sie sind viel unterwegs. I'm not so sure about this. Royal Air, we are breathing symbolic stuff. 所有的人他可以传保我的原来看对那个杯子。
Your attention. Today's program will start very soon, so please be seated. President of IIS, Professor Dr. Franz Krell, the President of... Good morning to all of you. Bonjour, Om Swastiastu.
He is the president of the Asia. First of all, I would like to thank the president of the organizing committee and his team for the wonderful support they provide us in organizing this 28th International Congress. Thank you, Professor Strel, the Vice President, and to Professor Rosenbaum, the Asia President. We also would like to thank and congratulate the Rapporteur General, Professor Andi Festa Vijaya, and the fellow rapporteurs, Mr. Pravas Kumar Jha and Mr. Muhammad Tawfiq, for their scientific work and their coordination role in preparing the Congress. The General Rapporteur will provide us with his views on the general theme, public administration facing new dynamics. Because of the actuality, is designed to provide a wide forum which draws in participants who will also address the three sub-themes, which are reasserting public action, role and responsibilities, renewing state protections for citizens and society values and responses, handling the legacies, conditions, constraints, and opportunities. We received 153 abstract proposals, and among them 141 proposals were accepted, and 50 completed papiers will be presented. For the Asia Conference, I would like to thank the rapporteur, Mr. Bernard Boucaud. Merci, Monsieur Boucaud, d'avoir accepté de jouer ce rôle dans la coordination scientifique et pour tout le travail que vous avez, que vous allez accomplir, que vous avez déjà accompli et que vous allez accomplir durant cette ouverture et cette session. Thank you to all the chairpersons and project directors of the working groups who have selected 168 papers among 200 proposals submitted. Our joint Congress, organized by IIS and AISIA, provide us with an ideal platform for researchers and practitioners from all continents to gather and to share their ideas and thoughts on these important topics. The 28th International Congress is also important for the IIS future. 8 during the statutory meetings to be held prior to the Congress. The new version of our statutes has been adapted in agreement with decisions taken during the EC meeting of March 2010 and will be submitted to vote at both the Council of Administration and the General Assembly. The new statutes will simplify the IS governance system and will not create new committees. The new governance system, which will be established here, will give us new tools to facing new current challenges. These major changes will take. Last March, we celebrated the Institute's 80th anniversary. This social, political event was a real success. The presence of Mr. Louis Michel, Belgian State Minister, was particularly appreciated. The second phase of the celebration will consist in a scientific presentation by Professor Akira Nakamura on the topic, the study of public administration as a discipline in East Asia in the frame of the Bremen Gala lecture. This scientific activity will take place here in Paris and will be followed by a reception on Thursday evening. This year, the International Review of Museum Sciences will also award a prize for the best IRAS article in 2009 to Dr. Jan-Henrik Meyer-Schelling for his paper, Varieties in. The prize is supported by the IRAS Publisher Sage and will be given to the winner during the upcoming ECPA conference in Toulouse in September 2010, as Dr. Meyer saying it was not able to attend this conference. Maintenant, quelques mots en français pour nos participants francophones. Et avant de conclure, nous sommes également heureux de vous annoncer le lancement officiel du portail de connaissances de l'Institut. Vous trouverez dans le porte-document que vous avez reçu une notice d'information sur la manière d'utiliser notre nouvelle plateforme de communication. Nous vous invitons à nous rejoindre pour poursuivre nos échanges sur les thèmes majeurs de gouvernance. Nous comptons sur vous pour l'utiliser, pour le faire connaître et le rendre plus dynamique encore. L'équipe de l'ISA, mon staff, attend vos commentaires. C'est un exercice d'interaction. Et elle attend également vos suggestions. Ce portail est aussi le vôtre. We are very pleased to welcome you here in Bali, an island that is full of uniqueness, the island of gods, for a stimulating debate. We are now more than 450 participants registered, and we can underline the remarkable participation in terms of quantity and quality. We will have the opportunity to strengthen our contacts and deepening now. IS is the platform of exchanges for public administration. Also, the social events will facilitate the networking. Please, do not forget your badges for attending all the dinners and ceremonies or reception. The badges for participants and for occupying persons will be requested. I wish you a very fruitful and innovative Congress. Thank you for your presence and your active participation. Derima Kashi.
Thank you, Mr. Maridan. Distinguished guests, Ms. Meredith Newman, President, Assistant Professor, and Chair of the Department of Public Administration. Now I'd like to hand the floor over to Ms. Newman, please.
Thank you very much indeed. Selamat pagi. I feel privileged to be standing here this morning representing the American Society for Public Administration and our 8,000 plus members in the United States and worldwide. And I want to thank IIAS and IASIA for honouring ASPA in this way. I would also like to thank Florida International University, my home institution, for their support. And my sincere thanks to our gracious hosts, the National Institute of Public Administration of Indonesia. As we come together in Bali, these words on the screen from President Obama's inaugural address 18 months ago capture the themes of this joint Congress. They provide a foundation for my remarks this morning. I want to highlight service and challenges by focusing on the human face of governance and public service in times of crisis. In doing so, my purpose is to bridge the two themes of our joint Congress, namely public administration facing new dynamics, constraints, innovations, and sustainability. The new dynamics, in my case here, being the human processes of governance in our service economy, and public service strategies for overcoming growing global inequality. Yesterday, the advisor to the President spoke eloquently of the forces that shape these new dynamics, including globalization, technology, and culture. The joint host country panel that follows, focusing on the cultural dimension of administrative reforms, is also on my mind. You can tell from my accent, I have an accent. I am from the great country of Australia, the neighbouring country to the south of us. I was raised in Melbourne, served in the Department of Foreign Affairs in Canberra, and abroad in Vietnam and Paris, and then took on US citizenship when I married my American husband, and worked with him in the State Department in Senegal, where our daughter was born, in Malaysia, where our son was born, he is a Bumiputra, and the Republic of Singapore, and the World Bank in Washington and in Dakar, Senegal. So, administrative reforms in Southeast Asia, Europe, and West Africa have their own unique characteristics, of course. For example, the government of Indonesia's development planners realised the importance of local and indigenous cultures in selecting and implementing programs for eradicating poverty by means of a people-oriented approach. Or as the Minister said yesterday, cultural residents come from 156 different countries, speaking 64 languages. As I was preparing my comments in Miami last month, oil from the massive BP spill in the Gulf of Mexico was beginning to wash ashore. Photos of oil-covered endangered brown pelicans were hard to miss in the media, and even harder to look at. But what could not be captured by the cameras is the human toll. All along the Gulf Coast, families who have made their living for generations by harvesting the Gulf's seafood, find themselves out of work now and probably for the next decade. This man-made disaster is a crisis that is unprecedented in scope. Emergency responders are on the scene, attempting to minimise the environmental, economic and human impacts. I would like to address the themes of the human processes of governance and crisis through the lens of public servants, public administrators on the front lines of crisis response, and underscore the relationship between social inequality and disasters. I will discuss very briefly our global challenges and conclude by identifying the emotive skills that public administrators need if they are to rise to the challenge in service to the public. I hope that you will take away a few lessons from my remarks that may provide insights into the human side of public service. But first, the context. For those of you counting, I have 29 slides, so you will know when I'm reaching the end. Just the facts. Despite the impressive strides by nations like China, Brazil, India, absolute inequality between the richest and poorest countries is even greater than ever before. In 2000, the wealthiest 1% of the world's people earned 415 times more than the earnings of the poorest 1%, up from 216 times in 1980. The global distribution of household wealth is even more unequal. In that same year, the top 10% of adults over age 20 in the world owned 85% of such wealth, while the bottom half owned barely 1%. According to the UN, 924 million people lived in the slums in 2001. The figure is expected to be 1.5 billion by 2020. The number of people suffering from hunger has now topped 1 billion globally, the highest since 1970. Soaring food prices and fuel have pushed more than 130 million poor people across vast areas of Africa, Asia and Latin America deeper into poverty this past year. The global food crisis has devastating human consequences, with particularly severe impacts on women and children. In my country, the United States, in 2008, nearly 17 million children, 22.5%, lived in households in which food at times was scarce, 4 million children more than the year before, representing significant and growing food insecurity. Inequalities accumulate and create the most formidable challenges for those least capable of surmounting them. 2/3 of the 1 billion illiterate in the world are women and girls. Minorities, women and Indigenous peoples are acute victims of inequality traps. They face disproportionate impediments to accessing capital and education. Beyond these statistics, what does inequality look like up close and personal? Looking through the lens of crisis response provides a snapshot of the human dynamics of governance and the emergency personnel as the face of government. The oil spill in the Gulf